Oh, Camille and Ben, you're making me so happy today. I really needed that. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Merel, and if you do know me, my name is still Merel. That hasn't changed. Today I'm gonna watch the interview that Camille Vasquez and Ben Chew did at the Today Show. Now, my previous video was Elaine Bredehoft at the Today Show, so it seems kind of fitting that Ben Chew and Camille Vasquez are also at the Today Show. Honestly, I have nothing prepared. I literally saw that this interview was done seconds before I wanted to jump into the shower, so I showered and then I got out and then I made sure my hair was dry enough to put my headphones on, and now I'm here. So, as you might be able to see, my hair is still a little bit wet. So you'll be able to judge how long recording this video took me by how much my hair is dried at the end of it. So I don't expect this video to be nearly as frustrating as the one with Elaine Bredehoft was. And that's not because of any bias, but that's just because I've spent 6 weeks with these people and I've kind of gotten to know their tactics and their personalities a little bit. And the only thing that might happen, I suspect, is that I'll be disappointed because there's a lot of wrong moves they can make in a situation like this. There's a lot of damage that they can inadvertently do, because up to this point I was actually kind of happy that they were not in the press. Also because it kind of disproved Amber Heard's allegations that he was just suing her over and over again to keep harassing her, and she said, I just want him to move on. And then he did. He moved on. And then people were like, look at him, he's not even interested in this, and he's off playing music in the UK. And I'm like, you wanted him to move on? So he's moving on? Anyway, I'm very curious what they'll bring. I'm very curious what they're gonna say. You're gonna see my honest, real-time reaction here. Hopefully it'll not be a total train wreck. So, without further ado, let's just get into it.
And joining us now are Johnny Depp's lawyers, Camille Vasquez and Benjamin Chew. And a quick disclosure, my husband has done consulting work for the Depp legal team, but not in connection with this interview. So with that aside, let me ask you, did you speak to your client right after the verdict? What was his reaction in the moment?
I think just an overwhelming sense of relief. I was speaking with another friend of ours, a mutual friend of Johnny's and ours, and he said, I haven't seen Johnny smile like that in 6 years.
The weight of the world is off of his shoulders. He's got his life back.
As you well know, the law does not favor a plaintiff like Johnny Depp in a defamation case like this. The burden is very high, the threshold is high, and he crossed it. Frankly speaking, were you stunned at this victory? Ben?
Well, we had ultimate confidence in Johnny and the jury and the facts of this case, and you can only hope that the jury will see it. And in this case, they did, and the verdict was overwhelmingly in his favor. I
should mention the jury did find Mr. Depp responsible for defamation for one of the statements made by his lawyer. It accused her essentially of staging a scene in furtherance of an abuse hoax. How do you...
Sorry for cutting you off. So far, we've gotten through a minute without me wanting to throw stuff, so that's positive. One thing I noticed is how much Camille's face lights up when she's talking about Johnny smiling, and there have been a lot of rumors floating around the internet of them possibly dating. And first of all, I'm like, can't two people care about each other without romance being involved? Yeah, that just really annoyed me, but I can see that they have a very close bond, and just because they're male and female doesn't mean there has to be anything there. It doesn't even matter. Just, if you hear anyone coming up with those rumors, please slap them for me, but softly. Slap them softly. Anyway, I really like the fact that you can see her face light up. I feel like she really empathizes with him, and she has more or less crushed Amber Heard on her cross-examination, and I could sense that she wasn't just trying to destroy Amber Heard, attack her. I could notice that she was fighting for Johnny Depp in this case. So Yeah, I just like seeing that, and I feel like Ben Chew is a little bit nervous. I feel like they're both a little bit nervous, but yeah, what they're going to get into now is the one claim that Heard actually won on that got her $2 million, and I'm really curious what they're going to say, honestly. Obviously, they don't know what the jury thought. They only know the jury verdict. I think it's really unlikely that they'll know more than we do about why the jury came to that decision. But I wonder what their interpretation is, because what I think is that they only called it defamation because that particular claim was very specific about what they did on that evening of May 21st, 2016. And note that they did kind of agree that there was an abuse hoax, because that was the first statement made by Adam Waldman that was part of the countersuit. And the jury didn't say that that was defamation, which implies that they agree that it was a hoax. So the fact that it was a hoax is not the point of why that second statement won. I think because it's too specific, and defamation in this case just means that it's false. And I think it's highly possible that the jury thought, well, it didn't happen exactly this way, or there's no way he could have known. I think the jury thought that that specific set of events was false, and thus it was defamation. But let's see what they have to say about it.
Square that finding with the rest of the verdict, Camille.
I think it's just the verdict is overwhelmingly positive for Johnny, and it was unanimous. There were 7 people that decided he was defamed.
Amber Heard's attorney.
All right, that's a little bit disappointing because that wasn't really an answer. That was just, how does that one claim that she won square up with the rest of the verdict? And she just says, well, it was overwhelmingly positive for Mr. Depp. It was a bit evasive, but okay.
Was right here the day after the verdict, and she said the jury had not been permitted to see certain evidence that would have bolstered and verified Amber Heard's claims of abuse, in particular therapist notes. What is your response to that? And was there evidence that was suppressed for a valid legal reason that might have made a difference?
I think that was very disappointing to hear that, and to hear her impugn the character of the jury. And the evidence came in that should come in, and the judge was very fair to both sides.
In particular, she cites the UK judgment. As we all know, Johnny Depp sued The Sun, a newspaper in the United Kingdom. He lost that case, the judge finding that claims by the newspaper that he was a wife beater were substantially true. Now, Amber Heard's lawyers say that judgment should have come into this court case. What say?
It's a little bit more complicated than that, because technically the UK case, and I talked about this in the previous video, but technically the UK case wasn't supposed to prove or disprove whether or not those 14 incidents of abuse actually occurred. But he still made a verdict on it. He still had an opinion about it. But also, she states very fairly that that case was against The Sun. Well, technically, it was NGN, I think, the group that owns The Sun and not The Sun itself. But something I think I forgot to mention in the previous video is that not only was Amber Heard a witness in that case and not a defendant, the fact that she was a witness in that case and not a defendant meant that Depp's team couldn't get as much evidence from her side as they could do in the US case. Because if you're a party to the case, the evidentiary rules are way different, and the discovery process is way different, and I'm not a lawyer, so I can't be too specific about it. But yeah, there was a lot of evidence that they actually couldn't get to because Amber Heard was not a party.
You.
Was a different process, right? And also, Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in this case were the parties. They had different disclosure obligations. So we disagree.
Well,
the overwhelming evidence that was presented in this case in Virginia far exceeded what was presented in the UK, and we believe the jury got it right.
As you know, this trial was very closely watched. Social media certainly took off in a way that we've seen high-profile trials before, but this is the social media age. Do you believe the jurors saw any of that, were swayed by any of that?
No, I don't think there's any reason to believe that the jurors violated their oath. And again, that suggestion was disappointing to hear.
Yeah, I mean, Amber Heard's lawyer said so. She said it would have been unavoidable because it's on TikTok, it's on social media. I mean, in the old days, you'd tell the jury before they went out, don't read newspapers, don't watch the evening news. Now it's everywhere.
It is everywhere, but at the same time, they were admonished every single night. And they had a tremendous amount of respect, I think, for the court and the process, and they were doing the best that they could.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's possible that you see something flying by or that someone mentions something to you before you can stop them. Like if someone comes up to you and they say, hey, did you hear that Amber Heard this? Then you can't stop them before the end of the sentence. But you have to have a real lack of faith in your own case if you think that that kind of exposure can sway 7 jurors to give a different verdict than if they hadn't heard that. I think that's a startling lack, not only in the integrity of the jurors, but also in the strength of your case. Because if you have a strong case, then 1 or 2 sentences from the news won't make a difference, right? I mean, it's not like they see that and they're like, oh no, we're wrong, we have to change our verdict. I don't really think that's happening, and that's another problem. Even if the jury saw anything, you'd have to prove that it substantially changed the verdict. That if they hadn't seen it, that their verdict would have been different. But we have no evidence for that. Honestly, the verdict might still have been the same. So it's a useless argument either way.
Support for Johnny Depp online was exponentially greater than for Amber Heard. Just one example, on TikTok, the Justice for Amber Heard hashtag has 27 million views. Justice for Johnny Depp, 20 billion. Heard's attorneys have suggested that perhaps this is because of an orchestrated campaign on behalf of Johnny Depp. Do you know?
Which is also very annoying and frustrating, that just because people are against you, suddenly it's an orchestrated smear campaign. I mean, it's conspiracy thinking, right? Something happened over the past weekend with Taylor Lorenz, a journalist for the Washington Post. That's a whole different story. There have been a lot of videos made by people who are much more qualified to talk about that than I am. So look them up. But in short, what happened was that she wrote an article and she said that she reached out to Alida Majeka of Legal Bites and that umbrella guy, but that they didn't respond to the request for comment. But both of them subsequently said on Twitter, like, what the hell? We weren't asked for anything. I checked all my emails, all my DMs. There's no request anywhere. So then that derailed into a giant hot mess that basically made people lose their faith in the Washington Post even more than they already did. I mean, the irony is that the Washington Post is the same news outlet where the op-ed came from that Depp sued over. But the point is that she was criticized for the way that she handled that because she edited it but didn't add an editor's note. And then she edited it, and the editor's note wasn't really good in any way. And it was just handled very, very poorly. And then she got critiques for that, which I think is fair, as long as you do that, like, respectfully and don't, if you're not mean, that's fine. But she just went off on a rant about smear campaigns and stuff, and like everyone's against me, and people are just, this is just one giant negative campaign. This is what you get for speaking the truth, and you get harassed by a smear campaign. And I'm like, girl, please, come on. You're just getting critique for something that you handled poorly. Just even if you don't want to admit it, there's no need to go on the whole conspiracy theory. Oh, this is a smear campaign. Sometimes people give you critique. It happens. The people who do that still have integrity. They're not slaves to some kind of smear campaign. Stop with the conspiracy thinking, please. It's funny that this interview is still getting me frustrated, but not because of things that they're saying. Interesting.
Anything about an online campaign on behalf of Johnny Depp?
That is utterly baseless. In fact, very early in the case,
very baseless.
Chief Judge White had thrown out a count in the counterclaims that related to that. It was absolutely absurd and baseless.
And you know for a fact that neither he nor his agents nor anyone tried to, in some way, pay for or otherwise encourage this kind of social media activity.
Categorically false.
Why do you think the jury didn't believe her? Because when you look at the verdict, it really comes down to that. The issue was, is what she's saying true or false? And by their verdict, they said it's false.
Notice that they're not throwing people under the bus as much as Elaine was. I mean, when they were asked for comment on what Elaine said last week, they just said it was very disappointing. But they're not destroying her integrity as a lawyer. They're not throwing her under the bus. They're not throwing anyone under the bus. They're not going around saying, oh, this is just a smear campaign. They're handling it really well, actually. But do you notice the difference of how much they're not attacking anyone?
Well, my sense is that it had a lot to do with accountability, that Johnny owned his issues. He was very candid about his alcohol and drug issues. He was candid about some unfortunate texts that he wrote. And I think it was a sharp contrast to Ms. Heard, who didn't seem, or at least the jury may have perceived, that she didn't take accountability for anything.
This is done so well. Like, that was so mild, really. Because he could have said, like, she didn't take accountability for anything. But he even started the sentence with, she didn't seem, which is already not an accusation. Because an accusation is, she didn't do it, but she didn't seem to do it, is a statement about your perception of it. While she didn't do it is basically saying, I can look in her head and see that she didn't do it, or I can know for sure about the action someone else took or the intention that someone else had. And he's not doing that. He started the sentence with, it didn't seem like she took accountability. And then he corrected himself, or more amended himself. And he said, well, at least the jury perceived it that way. Or the jury could have perceived it that way. I mean, he was so nice about it. He's not attacking anyone here. I like this. This is a breath of fresh air.
You know, this has been closely watched, and in the Me Too context, some people have wondered whether there is a larger resonance to this trial, whether it sends a message. Do you see any larger message beyond the case you tried?
No. I mean, frankly, we don't. We're here to talk about the case that we tried, right? We encourage all victims to come forward, have their day in court, which is exactly what happened in this case.
Do you feel?
Yes. Oh, Camille and Ben, you're making me so happy today. I really needed that. Honestly, this case is this case. And yeah, in a grand scheme of things, what happens in multiple cases can have a bearing on, you know, societal movements and such. But she has an excellent point in saying that there's no harm done to actual DV victims because this shows that a DV victim can get to court and win. That's fine, right? And it also shows that if you get up there and lie, you'll be found out and you'll lose. And that's what people are afraid of, well, that's what Me Too responded to originally, in part, to the fear of mostly men that women would lie and make up false accusations to destroy them. And as I said in my previous video, Amber Heard is basically giving ammunition to these people by being an example of a woman who lied to ruin another person's reputation. But Me Too was in part created to counter that. And that's exactly what's happening here, is that someone's making up false claims and they get found out and they get punished in $5 million in damages. And that's how justice is supposed to work. Now, the only risk, however, is that not everybody has the money to actually go to court. So if you're falsely accused, you might not have the same resources that Johnny has and pay for the attorney's fees and whatever. You might not have resources to sue them. But hopefully, if there's a message coming from this trial, it'll be, don't fucking lie. That's really the only message that you need to take away from this. Don't lie. Just don't do it.
Feel confident in your appeal? Ms. Heard does intend to appeal.
we feel very confident that there are no errors that would justify any kind of successful appeal.
And then finally, I have to ask you, not since OJ, perhaps, has the trial been so closely watched and the lawyers become famous people in their own right. What has that been like for you, particularly you, Camille? I think I saw someone on social media get a tattoo of your face on their body, which is
She's
weird.
not comfortable with that.
It's been overwhelming and surreal, but to the extent that I can encourage young women to stay in school and maybe inspire them to pursue a legal career, then it's all worth it.
Well, I understand you got a promotion yesterday to partner.
Well deserved.
I was going to say, about time, other partner, right? Camille Vasquez, Ben Chew. Just saying. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, I really enjoyed watching that. It was, as I said earlier, it was a breath of fresh air. There is so much that they could have done so much worse than they did, but they did it so well. And obviously, you know, if you have an interview like this, you think about it and you practice and maybe you write some words that you hopefully memorize. Maybe they get sent the questions beforehand. I don't know how the process works, but obviously you've thought about your words before you get in there, right? And I like that the way that they thought about their words before going in there is making sure that they stay polite, that they don't attack people, that they don't make baseless claims, that they don't fight back. I mean, they're on the defense only saying like it's a baseless claim or something, but not, yeah, this is just them harassing us and this is them trying to destroy it, and they're not pointing fingers really. And I can really appreciate that. And it's also something that I've noticed in a lot of circles that claim that the whole trial was like a misogynistic thing, or that the message that comes from it is misogynistic or whatever. But people keep forgetting that Camille exists and that she did a stellar job and that she is a woman as well. Obviously, it means that women can be successful in their field, and hopefully she'll be an example for a lot of people who want to pursue the legal field, but maybe were a little bit hesitant because they're women. And hopefully she'll inspire people of every gender really to get into the legal profession if they're as passionate as she is, and I think that her promotion is well deserved. I understood that usually partner promotions don't happen in the middle of a year, something to do with taxes, I believe, but as you might have heard, I'm not from the US. So yeah, yay Camille, congratulations. All in all, I'm not just relieved, I'm even pleasantly surprised. I picked out a couple of situations where they could have gone in and counterattacked against the bullshit that Elaine was spewing, and they didn't. They didn't let themselves get dragged into this, and that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of strength, and it takes a lot of integrity. It's really hard to stop yourself from attacking the other person back if they attack you. So this is a great performance. And honestly, the Her team claim was, as I said, that Depp was just dragging her from court to court to continue the abuse. But then who was doing interviews like right the next morning? And I'm really happy that they took a week to come on and do an interview. I think that's a great move, because now nobody can really accuse them of doing a victory lap and rubbing the victory in anyone's face, because it's been quiet from their side for a week. And Johnny Depp also didn't go around rubbing it in anyone's face. So all in all, I think this just proves the point that they're the better lawyers and the better people, really. Not just better lawyers, but also just better people, because they're not letting themselves get dragged down to Elaine's level. So yeah, that's it for today. I really wasn't as coherent as I hoped I would be, but maybe that's just because I just got out of the shower. But anyway, I again want to thank you for watching. If you watched all the way to the end, you're slightly less of a trooper than with the other videos because they're longer. No, I'm just kidding. You're still a hero. I'm really grateful that you're here, and I'm really grateful that you watched this. I hope to keep making videos, and as always, if there's anything that I've said that you disagree with, or anything that you want to correct me on, or anything that you maybe want to compliment me for, or whatever, you're always welcome to leave it downstairs in the comment section. Right, now I'm gonna make myself some dinner, with the eggplant that you see. This is hard. There. With the eggplant that you see there. And I'll see you next time. Hang in there.